Hello and welcome to episode 35 of the Unknown Comics Podcast. I'm Brandon, there's Tanner, there's Chris.
Hello.
Hope y'all are having a great evening. We are. We're about to go see Shang-Chi.
Yep.
Yay.
Yep.
Our second Marvel movie in, 2 months?
Yeah.
3 months?
And there'll be more.
There will be more.
Eternals in November.
Da-da-da.
Spider-Man's in December.
Day after my birthday. Da-da-da.
I'm excited.
Very excited.
Hawkeye still doesn't have a release date, but
It's happening.
it's happening sometime this year.
And
I think we'll see more of that release date after this movie.
I bet it comes in November because Hawkeye #1 comes out in November.
I think in October. There's nothing slated there yet.
yeah.
We'll see, though.
We'll see. We got a little bit of news. So what we're going to do is we're live right now for those that are not watching live. We're live right now for Twitch. By the way, if you're listening not live, Thursday evenings at 7 p.m. Central, you can catch us live on Twitch recording this podcast, and you can chat with us. But
we are pretty regular. We have our
we have our moments.
we have our yogurt. Most weeks.
Lots
so
of
we
fiber.
stay up nice and regularly.
But so for tonight, we're going to do kind of a shorter podcast live because then we're going to go see the movie. Tomorrow we're going to record our thoughts and impressions, and then for the uploaded version of the podcast, we'll actually tag that on, so you'll see us change clothes and magically teleport to tomorrow.
We thought about not changing clothes.
Or we should all just
No, I've worn this all day already. That's not happening.
can't
we
take
just
it
need to
no.
switch shirts.
Not a whole.
No,
Yeah. I've sweated.
Some
of us do.
You're
Glisten.
getting the polo.
No.
I don't know. Brandon smelled himself and looked a little grossed out. As long as Brandon's shirt, I guess it'll be okay.
I wouldn't recommend it. So anyway, we have a couple of things to talk about. So last week we talked about Games Workshop launching Warhammer Plus, and one of the questions we had was, what is the content drip going to look like?
We have an answer this week.
And they had an answer this week.
Still, it doesn't confirm, but it gives us a pretty good idea, I think.
Yeah.
Well, so it doesn't confirm the animation part, but they have themselves confirmed that there will be new content every week.
Yeah.
Be it a bat rep, a master class,
Okay.
an animation. There will be something every week.
In the case of this week, it was animation.
Yeah, the master classes and the battle reports are for sure every week.
Okay.
It's just the animation that it looks like it's probably going to alternate. We'll see.
So we got a new
Between.
episode of Angels of Death this week, which
Yeah.
happens to be my favorite of the two shows.
Which I think is why they probably gave us 3 episodes of Hammer and Bolter right off the bat. Kind of make you feel like, we gave you that. Now we're going to do.
Pivot to
Yeah.
Angels. So
Yeah.
what were the other series that they announced? There was like a Sisters of Battle.
There's like 9.
There's a lot, and they all
9 or
have
12.
They all have kind of obscure names, so I can't remember them off the top
But
of my head.
the only 2 that were like really even, they made it seem like when they first announced this, they made it seem like everything was ready to go and we were going to get it day 1.
Yeah,
And that was totally not true. So I don't even know really how far out these other shows are even
I know
in progress.
Season 2 of Astartes is supposed to be one of the shows, and I honestly don't know why they don't just drop the first season on there because it's already out.
They may trickle it out after one of these 2s.
Yeah.
So, but the Blood Angels show has been.
I've really
Pretty
liked
good so
it.
far.
Yeah,
Brandon hasn't watched it yet.
Nope, I've only watched what they released that free preview for Hammer and Bolter.
Yeah,
But
I'm not sure.
I'll just leave Chell's account. It's
I'm
cool.
not sure how long seasons are. I don't think they've given any of that information either.
they haven't.
And I mean, it could be that, like I said, for Hammer and Bolter, they just don't really do seasons. They just do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just keeps
Yeah.
going or something.
Yeah.
I feel like it's definitely the way they did the Angels of Death. It's just cut. Like they're like, all right, we're cutting it there, we're cutting it there, we're cutting it
So
there.
it's
Because it
like
could just be. It could have been a movie.
Right. It's basically they stop it at a point in the story where it feels like
It's a pause.
a pause.
Okay.
Yeah, it's almost
But-
like a commercial break till
yeah.
next week.
You could tell they were fixing to fade to black and then come back.
So
anyway,
you could, so it'd be really easy to binge, is what
Yes.
you would say.
Once it
and
gets to
probably
the end
very
of it.
dangerous to binge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been good so far. It's kind of cool just to kind of
What's
see.
the runtime on Angel so far?
18 minutes.
15 to 19 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, it's not. That's per episode.
Yeah.
But it's been cool. I mean, like I said, the second episode, you see a last cannon just going off. And you're just kind of seeing some of the stuff like actually
I like the
happening.
Seeing it and hearing the sound effects that you've never heard before because it's all been in your head because they've
Yeah.
been on the table.
I like the color splash style.
Yep.
It really
the
fits
red on black and white.
It really fits the whole grimdark of 40K, and Blood Angels was a good chapter to do that with because red looks awesome
Against black and white.
Against
Yeah.
black and white.
Yeah, especially when that drop pod hits.
Yeah.
And it's just they're red, and then they're getting out of it and stuff.
Yeah, about the only other they could do the Imperial Fist. Yellow would probably work.
Yellow would look
Yeah.
good. I mean, yeah. The other colors, I mean, it wouldn't look bad, but it wouldn't look particularly good
Yeah,
either.
it would need to be something very high contrasty.
So if you don't know what we're talking about, that's Warhammer Plus. They have an app. They have Warhammer TV.
Warhammer TV is actually so Warhammer Plus is a whole subscription that encompasses Warhammer TV, the gaming companion apps.
Yep.
And
Warhammer Plus and the Vault. Sorry.
yeah, and the Warhammer Vaults.
Yep.
Which has all the old White Dwarfs and stuff. Well, not all the 2020 White Dwarfs.
Right.
Yeah, and they're going to keep adding stuff to that apparently every week too. I didn't check this week.
So Warhammer TV is what most people care about.
I think what they should do, and I think it'd just be fun just to see the progression, is to go back and just add the backlog of White Dwarfs.
I think they should too.
A lot of the stuff's outdated, right?
And it's not going to matter rule wise for the most part. It's more just kind of the stories and articles.
Yeah,
and
but
go back
and go back and just backload all the old codexes and army books,
Right.
Just cause, just to see the progression.
There's-
I bought the Angels of Death Second Edition Codex when I was in high school. I want to go back and just look at the pictures again.
And I
remember
guarantee
that.
there's someone out there that wants to go back and play second or third edition.
Yeah.
Just for
Might as well.
grins,
Yeah, or have some of the old world stuff in there.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
maybe you don't have the new rules yet, but I have access.
Go
to
back and play 8th edition.
what they had. So
Yeah. Which, hey, 40K and Fantasy Battle are at the same edition number now. Finally.
did Fantasy get to 9th?
Fantasy ended with 8th.
Fantasy ended with 8th.
Oh, so 40K is higher than that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, dun-dun-dun.
Oh, that's
If
crazy.
they had to cancel it to get it to...
I remember when Fantasy was the bigger game, which is just crazy.
Yeah.
That it flopped and died.
Yeah, when I started playing back in... So we started Fantasy Battle in middle school. And when I say Fantasy Battle, I had no job.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, my units were index cards that were cut.
Instead
to
of
where
what
I
they
could,
are?
Yeah, and we just shuffled index cards around the table, which actually really works for Fantasy Battle because
Yeah. That's what you were doing. Yeah.
Yeah. And you just cross off people that died. You could write their stats on there and stuff. It was totally great.
It was so legit.
It was totally legit. And what we would do is my buddy we would play on his dining room table. We went to Hobby Lobby and bought cut a green thing
Piece
of
felt
fabric
or something.
Yeah.
fabric, and we would put books on the table and those were the hills and everything, and that's how we would play. I would play high elves and wood elves, and he'd play dark elves, and I think that's all he played.
Yeah.
But I looked fondly back to those days. Then once we started playing 40K in high school, we actually had money and we bought armies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We never proxied 40K.
Yeah, I think it's a little harder to proxy 40K because you forget what this guy has or that guy has, but also at the beginning you kind of had to for a lot of things because there wasn't an option for what you wanted.
You still have to do that now. There's
It's
options
not as
with the
bad
model.
now, but yeah, it's still definitely a thing.
So yeah, I think they should go back and just throw all that old stuff on there.
I mean, even just for the art.
Now, I would say they could probably easily go back and do it back to the start of the digital
Yeah.
publication. Now that going any further back, you'd have to go back and do scans.
Somebody's got to physically
Hey,
start.
it was my job at AQHA to import tapes. It could be somebody else's job to scan in magazines.
Well, and here's the thing: there's essentially a pirate community out there that's already done it.
Yeah.
and I can confirm. I've gone back and looked.
Brandon's views of Games Workshop do not reflect those
Yeah.
of Unknown Comics.
Well, here's the thing, Games Workshop. You're making enough money off those models. You can quit being so freaking chintzy with the books.
The books. I mean,
Gosh.
speaking of expenses on books, that compendium they just came out with this $60.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not spending
That's
$60 on a
ridiculous.
compendium.
It's kind of crazy.
No,
Especially-
here's what's going to happen: is a game group will buy it,
Yeah.
and everybody will just.
Sure.
For a compendium, you only
Yeah.
need 11 people.
Well, it's going to be outdated as soon as your book comes out.
Yeah, it's just like the indexes were for 8th edition. Once the codex hit,
At least the indexes they split into 4 books, so you could, if you were playing one army, you could buy one cheaper book.
yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly they should have just tagged the compendium into the core book and maybe added
That
$20
would have been the
$20
thing.
to the core book.
I
They
think
should have just made it a PDF that you download with the FAQ.
or I think they could have had Kill Team have the smaller book, but if you're going to buy the book by itself,
Yeah.
it would have had everything.
Yeah.
That would have been the better
Oh,
way
like
to
the
do.
pack in with the
Yeah.
Yeah, have a smaller rule book for that.
Hey, lazy gamer.
You know,
Yeah. So anyway, that's Warhammer Plus. So staying on Vidya, a new What If, of course, dropped this week. What did we determine? It was 8 episodes.
I think.
I don't
I
remember.
don't think it does. It have an episode count?
It has an episode run. Yeah, it's 8 episodes, but they've already
They've
Yeah,
already
that
they've
sounds
already
right.
announced the next 8 episode run.
Yeah.
So this was
four.
the fourth.
It was just in the feels, man. Like,
Holy cow, that was a dark episode.
yeah,
Yeah.
Like on so many levels. It was interesting because
I mean, what would you do?
oh
You know what I mean? That's kind of the whole
yeah,
thing.
no, and it's not without sympathy, right?
Yeah.
I think that is. I think that I want to say it was probably. I'm trying to think about it. So last night, Mike asked on our little group chat, what did I think about it? And I'm like, I don't know yet. I just watched it.
Yeah.
Like I had to let it sink in. I think overall, it's probably my favorite of the 4.
Okay.
I wasn't crazy about it. I'm not a Doctor Strange fan anyway.
Yeah, I liked it because it was so far away from
Everything
from
else.
any of the MCU stories we've told
Yeah.
yet.
First time
Captain
we
Carter was
see-
probably second.
First time we see interaction with a Watcher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder if Doctor Strange now has interaction with the Watcher.
The bot kicked in when Lazy Gamer go bot go.
Hey, look, the bot works on all.
The bot once it starts seeing chat, it's like I'm awake. Let's
It's
go.
gonna start telling people to make an account so that we can invoice them.
we have to turn the bot off on some streams.
1 second.
So anyway, while he's doing that,
Yeah.
Doctor Strange. I mean, I kind of wanted to see. It's kind of hard because you want to see a little bit further back, right? Like, why is this Doctor Strange not as arrogant as the other Doctor Strange?
Yeah.
I would say he was more arrogant. You just
Well, I mean, I think he was more. I don't know. I don't know if you can say that in a way, but in this sense, he was more
Desperate.
Yeah, I think that would be the right word.
I
now.
think it became obsession.
Because he was, they were in a relationship. You could see that he wasn't off on his own thing.
Yeah.
He was actually caring about her in the first place.
Well, and another thing I liked about this story was the divergence actually happened technically off camera because the divergence from what we know from the MCU, they weren't even in a relationship. Like,
Yeah.
he was supposed to be in that car by himself.
yeah. So that's kind of like I said. Like I want to see like a little further back. Like
Yeah.
what happened that he didn't become that guy?
His arrogance level was lower to where
No.
she was more accepting of a relationship. So it actually, happened and all that stuff. Apparently having somebody else in the car saves his hands.
Yeah, and all of him because even when he wasn't the driver,
Yeah.
he still lived.
Yeah. So and that also brings up a question. If she was the absolute, well, that's not true because there are versions of the timeline where she survives. The absolute was something had to push him into becoming the Sorcerer Supreme. It's technically not always her, though,
Well, in that timeline it was though.
But that's the thing. They're all
at that branch.
different branches. So why couldn't he have branched the timeline again and not broken the universe?
I guess each maybe it's to tell us that each version still has its point. Like
its absolute point.
it matters.
Yeah.
For that one.
But once he started, and they talked about how they're not really introducing new characters. And what if that's kind of not true. They did have some new characters, like you saw the one senator guy and Captain Carter, the little jerk dude, and then we see Oben
Obey.
Oben or something like that. And come to find out, that is a alternate name for Cagliostro in the comics. Even though it really didn't play him as Cagliostro, it was his librarian. But yeah, we did actually see somewhat of a new character in this one. And you wonder why he didn't just try to stop him.
Yeah.
But I guess it was just you got to learn that this is kind of how it's going to be. No, it was great. This one, actually, I don't think they got any replacement actors.
Oh, everybody voiced themselves?
Everybody voiced
and,
who they were.
Yeah, and like Cumberbatch, it sounded like him from time to time, but then it didn't. And I was like, is it him? Is it him?
And that's probably just a...
And I know there's been actual there has been places where people they've cast a voice actor and they like tried the actual actor and you're like, no, you don't sound like yourself enough, and they actually have casted somebody else to voice act for them.
Yeah, and
which I think is funny.
And part of it is they probably went back and used a bunch of the ADR from Doctor Strange, like the whole Dormammu part. They probably went back and just pulled the ADR in from that movie.
I would think so.
And then came in back with new stuff, and that could be part of it too. So his voice probably has aged a little bit. Conditions are different. He may have drank more orange juice that day.
Yep.
There's so many reasons why your voice could be, different.
Yeah. Ultimately, not a big cast for this one, though. I mean,
No.
5 or 6 people, I think, probably.
No,
is all
like I
had.
said, it was a neat divergent because it was such a unique story that we hadn't seen.
And that branch is closed.
Yeah, like it ends
gone.
dark.
It's done.
The Watcher's like, sorry about you, man. You should know. And then just, it's done.
So that tells you that there are consequences to branching the multiverse. So maybe these are those little points that
They're making
What If
before
is
we get there.
dropping.
Yeah.
That kind of tells us what's kind of to come in the MCU.
And again, I think it makes you think, like, will we see an interaction with a Watcher in the actual MCU as well?
Yeah.
Does Strange already know about him?
Or somebody murders him in like Original Sin.
No.
Oh yeah, that was so annoying when that thing came out. I
Yeah.
hated it.
I never read it actually.
I didn't. I mean, I started.
I was so uninterested in it at that
I
point.
think I started it, but that came out about the same time that I stopped reading.
Because that
comics
was
in general for a
like
while.
the official changing of the guard of the Nick Furies. I do remember that. That was one of the last times you saw white guy Nick Fury,
White Fury?
White Fury. To make
I just remember
White Fury.
I just remember it being over ordered, and we had 1 million copies of
oh
it.
gosh.
Like,
Well, and it was hard to tell because every cover looked the same because it had that white and black treatment.
what's funny about that, you said White Fury, and then in my brain came up the cartoon Turbo, and I went, White Shadow. And I was like, wait, that's Samuel L. Jackson that voices that. It's just a complete turn of events there. White Shadow.
That is funny. So yeah, what if like I said, we were talking, we have our little private chat or whatever, and Darren's just like progressively, he's just kind of losing interest in what if. And I get it to an extent.
I'm not crazy about it.
I think because kind of like the beginning of Scarlet Witch and all that kind of stuff, or even Loki at some points, right? You don't really understand what the whole picture is, right? I think that like, is there going to be something at the end of all this that's going to be like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's
it's hard to
kinda
tell
what
with
it
this
is.
one because they seem very on their own islands, right? Which isn't to say they couldn't somehow tie them all together at the end, but
Well, so I guess on being on episode 4, I'm 50-50. I really like the first two, but also the tone matches the Marvel universe. And the last two, the tone does not match Marvel. It feels more like watching a DC, which I love DC, but
Yeah.
they're just so much darker that it doesn't. To
Well,
me, it just doesn't fit.
Ultimately, I think we're just seeing, the Watcher. The first one, like the Watcher wasn't involved almost at all. But now
Yeah.
we're seeing him slowly become more and more involved, and he's really we're really getting into some story he's trying to tell us.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's how we're going to see it all connect, is how his story eventually comes to a point.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what we're going to see. Maybe they'll get to the point where it's like, and here's this thing with Loki and how that just effed up everything. You know what I mean?
Apparently,
So-
Agent Carter or
Captain Carter.
Sharon
oh,
Carter.
sorry.
Her story is supposed to be progressed through the What If seasons.
Interesting. Okay. So we still have the zombie episode. We know for sure.
And the Peter Parker Strange.
Peter Parker Strange, and then also
And the Tony one.
the Ultron.
Party Thor is an episode.
Yeah, then there's Tony's Tony and Killmonger episode.
Oh yeah.
So that's probably your
Well,
four right there.
because we've got the Ultron Infinity Gauntlet one.
Okay.
We've got Tony Killmonger.
Okay.
We've got Marvel Zombies.
And then the Peter Strange.
Peter Strange. And then Party Thor?
Yeah,
Unless some of those are
they might
Maybe
be
together somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Or that, or I just didn't look at the episode count right. I don't know. Anything's possible.
What if?
What if Brandon actually got something wrong? It's rare,
Right.
but it does happen. So also today, they Amazon dropped a trailer for Now, is it a film or a television series?
I believe it's going to be a series.
A series for the Wheel of Time books, the Robert Jordan fantasy. Which, I'll be honest, for the longest time, I got all the Game of Thrones books and the Wheel of Time book titles and our author names wrong. Like they were just one and the same for me. I was like, Game of Thrones, hey, isn't that Wheel of Time? No. Blank of blank stuff just screws with me all the time.
Insert generic fantasy title.
Kinda, right? Growing up, because I read, the fantasy novels I read growing up were like the Dragonlance novels based off of D&D settings. So Dragonlance, Forgotten Realms, and stuff like that. I didn't really read fantasy outside of that. Lord of the Rings. There's another blank of the blank. Anyway, there's a trend in fantasy, right?
Yeah.
So I know next to nothing of Wheel of Time other than the author's name and that it's a high fantasy setting. What do you know? I
know that it looks really cool. And I remember the nostalgia of seeing the books around the house because my dad read them.
Yeah.
But I haven't read them myself. They're on my list.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's more of a nostalgia just seeing them around.
Yeah.
I think, sorry, just sidetrack. I think it's funny that on our feed up here, it shows what Lazy Gamer said, LMAO. But on my, the audio is cutting in and out. Here, it just says all asterisks.
Interesting.
Isn't that weird?
Because
I think the audio went off.
We lost audio?
I'm not hearing it in my ears.
I can hear
Oh, I hear
headphones.
Yeah. I think your headphones.
Yeah, yep. It's
okay.
me. I'm like, no,
well,
it's gone.
The reason we can see it is we're the administrator, so we can see the original comment.
Because I'm in mine. I was all, what the? It's funny that is something bad enough that it replaces it with asterisks.
LMAO. Yeah, I don't know why I have the explicit filter turned on. I think that's a setting on you. I think.
Well, I have no idea. Maybe.
Anyway,
sorry. I just thought that was interesting.
There's a Twitch. So Wheel of Time.
I need to watch the trailer for this.
I didn't watch it.
It looks good.
We're talking about it, but we didn't really prep for it. So what else? What else do we have coming out?
So some other rumors that I've heard with some of the movies is that we're going to see Thor's brother, his half brother, and
Loki.
No. his other actual half brother, not adopted brother.
Man, Odin got around.
Yeah. So he's been in the comic books and stuff like that. So I've been seeing we may see him in the next movie. So I'm kind of interested to see.
Oh, in Love and Thunder?
Uh-huh.
All right.
Be interesting to see.
I mean, we saw his sister in the last movie, so.
Yeah. It's not Beta Ray Bill, is it? Who is it?
No,
Beta Ray.
let me look it up real quick. I was just now thinking about it.
Unless they bring in Thunderstrike. That'd be hilarious. Which is Eric Masterson. It's not his brother, but he was a Thor for a time.
Okay.
He's the first bearded Thor.
Okay.
From like the early 90s. Had the ponytail and had Thunderstrike was his hammer.
Okay.
Had the axe blade on the backside.
It's Baldur.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, is Baldur his half brother? Yeah, I guess that would be right. Yeah.
It was I guess
we
in the
haven't seen
comic
Baldur
books
yet.
it was because in the comic books his mom is not actually his mom, but it's Baldur's mom that's in the movies.
Frigga?
Frigga, yeah.
Yeah.
She's Baldur's mom,
Yeah.
but not Thor's. But they kind of can't do
Yeah,
that
because
now.
in Norse mythology, Thor's mom is
Freya.
Freya. Yeah.
Yeah, so
I
Freya.
was going to say Freyalise, but that's a planeswalker in Magic. Freya. Yeah.
Freya, Frigga. So, well,
Yeah.
we'll see. That's kind of rumors kind of going around. So I'm sure people are going to be like clamoring around for that first comic book here soon because I'm sure there's not many of those.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, like I said, we were going to cut it pretty short, so we'll be back in just a little bit. If you're listening to the recorded podcast, we'll be back in just a little bit with our thoughts on Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi. It's Shang-Chi, Brandon.
So spoiler alerts, we're going to be spoiling the snot out of Shang-Chi. So after the break, we'll come back to that. Thanks for joining us. All right, everybody, we are back, and we have seen Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is the technical title. Chris?
Overall, I thought it was very great.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that I felt like I was missing cinematically, and it's because we don't know this character. You know, I was watching Iron Man and some other movies here recently, and when you see Iron Man put that suit on and do that first drop, you're just like, yes, that's Iron Man. And sorry, my wife's texting me, and so it always pushes through. So you're probably hearing a tone go right now. So, but I think that's the only thing that I was missing was that. Other than that, I thought the movie was great. It just didn't feel. I didn't have the same feels because I don't know the character.
Okay.
You know what
so
I
you
mean?
didn't have his like big hero.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess
When you see Cap put on the suit for the first time, Iron Man put on the
Yeah.
suit for the first time. I mean, those are like.
I think
moments,
for
you know what I
him
mean?
is when he took the rings.
Yeah,
He grabbed the first 5 and started.
His suit's not iconic or nothing.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think that's the only thing that I felt like was missing from the movie was that. Let me tell her I'm recording so she quits texting me.
So
I put it in my top 3 for Marvel movies. I loved it.
That was it. Okay. What?
I like that it didn't feel like a superhero movie, but it's still in that world.
Yeah.
I mean, I just thought it was cool. I thought all the dragons and stuff were cool. I love kung fu movies anyway.
Yeah.
So,
I did think it was interesting that not once was he mentioned as the master of kung fu.
Right.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're just completely straying away from that.
Well, I
or,
mean,
you know,
it was kung fu to an extent.
they
but
didn't even
that's
talk
such
about fighting styles, and maybe
Yeah.
that's stereotypic. Maybe they just don't want to go towards that.
I think they wanted the fighting style to be very not of this world too.
yeah,
Right. And kung fu is technically of this world, so you kind of.
I mean, it's what is the wuxia? That's what they're called, a wuxia movie. Like,
where they're doing that typing of style.
Oh, and they float around kind of like
Yeah.
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was definitely in that wheelhouse. Which of course it also had Michelle Yeoh in it as well.
Yeah.
I loved his pseudo love interest, not love interest, sidekick girl.
Oh, Aquafina.
Yeah.
I think she was great. I think I was worried they were going to lay into the comedy from her too heavily, but I think they dosed it pretty well. So I thought it was great too. Going into it, there were a lot of pre-reviews I was seeing that it was the Asian Black Panther. I didn't get that.
No, not at all.
I think like plot arc, it's not the same.
No.
And then a lot of people said that the fighting was like
could see where they're coming from for that. Not so much plot arc as getting to see the other fighters around the central character.
Yeah.
Just kind of you have the army of the Tao Long.
And I guess we're seeing a shrouded world, just kind of like Wakanda was. And
I mean,
sure.
I see the
don't know.
parallels, but I don't think it's an
I think
issue.
you put the Wakandan fighters up against those guys, and the Ten Rings is going to lose.
I don't know about that.
The Dora Milaje.
The Ten Rings specifically, I think, would lose.
Yeah.
Maybe not with him in there, but the fighters against fighters, I think the Wakandan fighters are probably better.
And then some of the other criticisms I saw was that the fighting was too heavily CG added.
I think
I thought there was
notice.
enough practical.
if you can't tell,
stunts.
which I couldn't tell for the most
Yeah.
part, then they did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
You see a lot of Warner Brothers movies, and you can tell right away.
Yeah,
with
but
CG,
like the fight between Wenwu and Shang-Chi, like it was going to be CG because they have powers,
magical rings.
super magical rings. You've got to have it like that, and that fighting style has to look like they're actually using it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So no, I totally got that. I thought it was good. So my only things that are my criticisms is one. And it may be that I need to go back and watch Iron Man 3 to see if they link it there. It never really explains the Afghan offshoot of the Ten Rings.
They show them when they're talking to him in that short. They do show his picture.
Okay, so the Afghan offshoot was an offshoot off of what Aldrich Killian was doing.
No, it showed him because that guy that's doing the interview with Ben Kingsley character Trevor. He is part of the Ten Rings, and he's got a whole folder of all the Ten Rings stuff that's been going on, and it does show those guys there.
Okay.
Now, but it doesn't give us a really good connection, but it does show that guy's profile picture inside the file and all that kind
Okay,
of stuff.
so the Afghan Ten Rings offshoot was legitimate
part of the Ten
Rings. Okay. That's one thing I was wondering if it would ever connect, if it was part of Killian's kind of fake version, or if it was
because that guy
legit.
had that folder with him in there that was part of the Ten Rings.
So then what was Wenwu's master plan with that offshoot? Was he actually trying to acquire something from Stark?
It might have been.
What his long game was, which is kind of a null point now because daughter's taking over.
Yeah.
And the Ten Rings aren't going away. So kind of makes you wonder. And I mentioned this to you last night. Does she take the Mandarin title? Just as like
because you don't really know what she's going to be called now.
Yeah.
So
Sister Dagger is her actual comic book name.
Okay.
And they've even changed her. I mean, they just introduced her in the comic book last year, and they've already kind of, this is what the entire MCU version of Winwu. He's a completely new character created for the movie.
Yeah.
He is not how.
Yeah, there is no
Shang-Chi's
proper
dad is in
Mandarin
that.
character. He's just, they do a lot of amalgamated characters, and then they take characters and they explode them across characters.
So in the books, it's not the 10 rings that he's head of. It's the 5 weapons clans.
Right.
And so he's like the master of all of them. Then Shang-Chi is master of the hand.
Yeah.
Then his sister's master of the dagger. And then there's, I think, sword and staff are 2 of the others. And I forget what the 5th one is.
Yeah.
I bet it's Arrow. But his dad is the head of all of them. Once dad dies, Shang-Chi becomes the head of them.
But that's not the Mandarin.
No, it's not
either.
the Mandarin. It's something completely
that's Shang-Chi's
separate.
dad.
Yeah. And basically what Shang-Chi is doing is trying to legitimize this underground criminal organization. So
Right. No, that's cool. I had a thought and it just went. Bleh.
So the rings are definitely alien.
Well, Captain Marvel says they're not.
Well, says it's not something she's ever seen.
Nothing she's ever seen.
Everything in comic wise, they are alien.
Yes.
But
The actual
we don't,
rings.
We don't know. I'm guessing that's going to be the case still because we know it's pulsating out into the universe, calling somebody.
Calling something.
So I also think it's interesting that it didn't happen until he used them. So and I wonder if that's because of the bloodline.
something
maybe that has
happened
something to do with
because he was able to change the color they were emitting. So he changed something in them when he took them over.
Yeah, it has something to do with his mother's side.
Which, the way I understood it, is the people of the Tao Lo are not technically humans anyway, because once you enter the village, you're in a pocket
it's a different
or
dimension.
something. Yeah.
And they could have been humans that found their way to it a long time ago, but they've changed.
or they could have been another celestial.
So
thing.
I think the easy explanation is he called whatever the threat the Eternals are coming out of the woodworks.
I think that makes sense for what's next, right?
Yeah.
But it may not be the case.
Right.
So I guess
they may be
we'll have
setting
to
along
see.
it. So if that's the case, then how many different threats are is Phase 4 like
Building up
you've
to?
You've got Kang, you've got whatever the deviants,
Yeah.
you've got whatever. If that is something different, crap.
I still feel like
screwed.
Kang's probably the long game, right? Like he's the Thanos takes an entire couple of phases to get through.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'll be, one and done. I think we'll some of these other threats maybe we'll see them, but they're kind of like the step to the big bad guy kind of a thing. So I'm not sure if the deviants are going to be something that lasts long, or if something stays out of those, it'll maybe one or two of those characters somehow comes to the other side or something.
Yeah.
I love Wong though, and I think Wong needs to show up in every Phase 4 everything.
Man, he's
to some
let's see.
extent.
He's been in some stuff already.
Let's see. We'll see him in Spider-Man. We've already seen him in the trailer. Of course, we'll see him in
Doctor Strange.
Multiverse. They're kind of just peppering him. Which I mean,
I like that we saw him go from this very serious character to not being this. We're seeing kind of an amusing side of him.
Yeah.
Well, Infinity War kind of started that.
Yeah, and you even see it at the very end of the first Doctor Strange movie when he's kind of changing his attitude towards him.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of interesting to see him, and then of course the relationship that he has with Abomination. Everybody wants to know more about that now.
Yeah.
And will we find out more about it?
So this is the first MCU movie that actually happened, that has happened significantly post Endgame, right?
Yeah.
So we're WandaVision, Loki, or Falcon and Winter Soldier all kind of happened.
Yeah.
I don't know. It didn't really place Falcon and Winter Soldier a whole lot. It was months, right?
Yeah, it's
It's
I
still
think it says
close to after.
it's like
the
6
second.
months. I think after.
Yeah. So this one potentially places Shang-Chi quite a bit after, because and I didn't realize until I was reading this, Captain Marvel's hair apparently sometime has come out, because she had her crop sides in Endgame, so now her hair is longer.
It's kind of been a thing
Banner,
with her.
Banner somehow has figured out how to become solely Banner again.
Still wearing a
but
sling.
his arm is in a sling still. But
Yeah.
it could be just that jacked up.
Or maybe he can heal as Banner.
Oh.
Maybe that's where that's going. You know,
Because I did note, like, the people coming back from the second snap was so central to the plot of, like, it was a big deal, all these people showing back up. It seems that enough time has passed that that's not necessarily an issue anymore. Or at least it wasn't mentioned.
they
so
talked
much.
about the fact that it could happen, but they didn't talk about any of them being snapped.
Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it wasn't even a conversation.
Yeah, and you know, I think the Eternals is going to touch on it more because that was something they teased in the second Eternals trailer. Is something happened because of the population springing back up?
Yeah. Part of me thinks that maybe he didn't call the Eternals because in the trailer we see that what is calling the Deviants is the snap
Is the
and not his ring. So I'm like, man, I don't know. So it's kind of one of those things. And it maybe they didn't really tell backstory of the rings or anything like that. And I think it's because that's
Well,
either Shang-Chi 2 or that's going to be in a future Avengers movie or something.
They said the 10 rings would be back at the end of the second.
the
post-credit
organization?
scene. The organization.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe it's just leading into either their Disney Plus show or Shang-Chi 2.
Yeah.
So I think it'd be interesting to see what finally comes of that because now, of course, we're all curious about
Yeah.
that.
No, I thought it was a fun movie. It was even more crazy because the director had never directed like an action movie before, ever, let alone a super high CG, big budget superhero action movie.
Yeah.
Well,
Like
and you're
he had
talking
done
about
just like
something
dramas
that's-
and stuff.
Kung Fu and all the different fighting and
Yeah.
I mean it's a lot of crazy stuff in there too. So
Yeah.
it was a good movie. Like I said, I think for me the only thing I thought was missing was just that superhero scene or whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
But I think it's just because he's a different type of
Well,
hero.
it wasn't a superhero movie.
Yeah,
It was more of, it fit more the fantasy archetype of the hero.
He floated in air and destroyed a big giant demon.
yeah.
Superhero.
That doesn't mean anything.
He's a hero that's better than other heroes. Superhero.
Yeah. So I don't know. Even when Doctor Strange put on the cape, that was. I mean, like I just feel like there's these
That
moments,
moment that
you know,
established him,
when
yeah.
you get them all in there.
To
you
me,
don't
the
see
moment that established him, and it was really subtle, was when he was training with his aunt, and you see him go from the fist to the open palm.
Right.
No.
That
He's
was
switching
that
from
was his moment.
Yeah, he's flipping from his dad's style to his mom's style.
And surprisingly, the dragon was not Fin Fang Foom.
It was not Fin
I
Fang
was
Foom.
real surprised about that.
Maybe that's what the ring's called. Because technically, Fin Fang Foom is a cosmic being.
Yeah. Well, and I think from some of the stuff I was reading on the rings came from space dragons.
Yeah. So it could be that's Fin
So,
Fang Foom is just
Yeah.
That new type of something.
That could tie it. That could actually, maybe it's tying into the Fantastic Four movie or something. If it's drawing him or something like that.
Yeah. It's calling all the space dragons.
And then Galactus is going to come eat them all. Mm-hmm.
Tasty space dragons.
I did.
like sushi.
I did think it was interesting that they were like saying that the soul sucker could burn its way out of the thing, but then I don't think it ever breathed fire once. Just throwing that out there.
It kind of had that. It kind of had that purple dark dimension eldritch energy look to it.
I think that it was probably pulling from that. And apparently in the books as well, the different rings, we only saw them doing kind of projectile stuff.
Yeah.
But each ring actually has a different power.
Has power. Yeah, I think they just kind of died to that.
Yeah.
I think they just because the Infinity Stones are the exact same kind of motif, right?
Yeah, and I think and there's even more than that. Yeah, I mean, but it's all the different elements and different. Yeah, so and I think that's why they probably did that here. So it is.
I
interesting
really
to see
liked the way the
changes.
rings were done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think overall it was good. It's nice to see because they're trying to not have confusion with having something else that's handy.
Yeah.
So, that makes sense.
Multicolored, handy.
Yeah.
Each thing does a different thing. Yeah. There's so many like same motifs that it just in the comic world they were so spaced out and so apart from each other that it didn't matter. But now in the scope of the MCU, having it right after the Infinity Gauntlet was a thing is just
It's kind of confusing.
kind of confusing.
Yeah.
So
Well, because if you space them out if to have that sort of space that you could do in a comic, which is illustrated in a movie, by the time you're ready to do it, all the actors have aged out of their parts.
right.
And
Yeah. So no, I thought it was good, and plus it lent itself better to the kung fu, the martial arts action, right? As opposed to just being blasting stuff and doing things. It actually allowed him as a character to utilize him in the fight.
And we see him using them a lot different than his dad could.
Yeah.
Immediately. So who knows what else he'll be able to. Maybe they do have other abilities that we don't know, and he's just got to tap into that. Because from what I understand from the different creatures, when he was talking about it, they can learn how to do a lot of different elemental stuff. All we ever saw him really using was wind stuff.
Yeah.
So there may be a lot more stuff that he can tap into that we haven't even
It
seen.
also alluded to Katie's character being like...
Yeah, and I wanted to ask that too.
Wong kept referring to her as, this is your life too. Like, she is a part of this.
And I wanted to do research on that. I haven't seen it yet. I don't know if she's created for the movie or if she's in the comics, but I want to know, is there something special about her that she doesn't even know about? Because it'd be weird that Wong's like, yeah, you got to come too.
Yeah.
I love how they're like...
Is she going to show up in Hawkeye?
I love how they casually tell the story to their friends, like, over drinks.
Yeah.
Like, that was awesome.
Well, that and the airplane too, when he's telling his whole demon death past, and then she's like,
Beef chicken.
beef or chicken,
Chicken or vegetarian? We're out of chicken. We're out of
so
vegetarian.
I thought that was a good little break too. So
Then I'll just have the beef because that's all that's left.
yeah,
Like I thought the comedy was dosed in really well. Because I think you can kind of
Trevor was great.
yeah, that was Chris's favorite part.
Yeah.
Was that Trevor Slider?
All I needed was him in there, and I was okay just the fact that they mentioned him. But then when they had him in the movie, and he played such a big part in the movie, I was just like, yes.
And the walking ottoman.
Ben Kingsley.
He was funny, but I absolutely hated that in Iron Man 3. It made me so mad.
Yeah.
Oh, that he wasn't really the Mandarin.
Well, were you okay with it until they showed you he wasn't?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was okay with, like, I was super stoked about it until the big reveal in the movie, and I was like, this is so lame.
Overall, I think Iron Man 3 was just a disappointment.
Yeah.
But that was also the first one.
It had its moments, but yeah, generally I think it was. I mean, yeah,
There's a reason we don't have a fourth one.
pretty much. Well, that's Spider-Man. I mean, the Spider-Man series was the kind of the next de facto,
Or Civil War.
yeah, Iron Man or whatever. So, but yeah, no, I thought it was good. So yeah, good stuff.
That'll do.
Wow.
That'll do.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us for episode 35, the two-parter, episode 35, two-section.
We're gonna have a commercial break.
Yeah, it was good.
Just put another YouTube video in the middle of that.
Just go to black and slap the stinger on it. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next week.